All right, so what's going on, guys? So in today's video, I actually got a couple things I need to get done. I actually started wrapping the rest of the interior parts in that vinyl, and I'm going to start working on the battery tray for the Galant here. Because of course, so you may have noticed in my other video, the battery is just kind of sitting on the stock battery tray. It's not being held down by anything, it's kind of just sitting there. And yes, I have driven the car like that. But of course, I know I'm going to need a battery tie down, especially when you go to the track. They require that you have one. So I'm going to go ahead and make one with some scrap steel I got laying around and using the factory one. Now, of course, you can buy a mini kit. They're out there. They're available from a bunch of different companies. But of course, this one is basically going to be free. And of course, like I said in the earlier video, I'm actually using the Miata battery. All right, guys, so I already showed you this is the same material that I used to wrap the dash. I actually had quite a bit left over. So now I'm starting to wrap the other stuff that's in the interior. I also have to weld this up. This is going to be my battery tray. This is just some steel, some scrap metal I had laying around. This is actually stainless steel. And of course, I just have a flux welder. So I'll be using this, which is actually not stainless steel wire. So my weld's going to be ugly, but again, this is not a structural piece. This is just to hold the battery. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this done. I'm at least gonna get that tacked up, even if I don't finish it. That way I can get it in place. And I do want to move the battery away from the intercooler piping. All right, guys, so I'm working on the battery tray. This is what I've got so far. Of course, I did get my welding wirings. I went ahead and tacked my shortened stock brace. And I think I'm gonna weld these to the tray. That way I can just drop this on and then tighten the nuts down. And that'll get the job done. I did drill some holes in the sides. And I think I'm gonna just leave it like that. All right, so the next step, now that I've got my tie down somewhat together, was to work on this battery tray. So what I did, and I didn't show this, is I actually just drilled out the spot welds on the bottom of the tray so I can separate it. So now this is your original battery tray. This is just gonna be scrap. And I'm gonna use at least some of this with the new one, because this is how it actually mounts in the car. All right, so I apologize for the lighting, but this is pretty much what we got going. Of course, this is the original piece. So without having to go too crazy or do too much work, I'm just gonna use this frame and weld my pan onto this. So I just did my test fit in the car. I made a couple marks, see up here, where it lines up. Just these vertical lines, and then just kind of the outline of it, because I am going to trim off this excess here, and then I'll probably cut it here. That way I can still get to this bolt hole, because this is where the factory mount location is. And of course, I want to clean these up. I'm going to recess these holes and then hit it with a wire wheel, and then go ahead and get this stuff. Now, because this isn't a structural piece, I'm not going to weld this entire thing. I'm just going to do, maybe some stitch welding, in a couple places, and that'll hold it, because as you can see, this thing wasn't held on but by 5 or 6 spot welds, I think. So it's not much holding this piece together anyway. A couple stitch welds on this, and I'm going to hit it with probably some truck bed coating to see how that holds up, and then I'll be done with this. I didn't show you guys, but with it installed, it gives me like ½ an inch or so worth of space between the battery and the intercooler piping, and that'll be more than enough, because of course it's not moving anyway. I just don't want it to rattle at all. All right, so here we go. So it's not quite the finished product. You can see I did cut off quite a bit. Then I cut this edge off here and then kind of rounded it over, because that was just excess hanging off. I think that looks pretty good, especially considering I freehanded it. Now I did go ahead and use my flap disc and knock down some of these areas that had a lot of rust on them, as well as the edges, because the edges are actually now completely smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to mock up the battery tray. You see, I did drill some holes in this battery tray as well. A couple reasons I did that. One, just because I have a drill press and I was actually kind of bored. But I do like the way it looks, and I think it will take a little bit of weight off. But I'm going to go ahead and get that mocked up, get it tacked in place. Then I actually have to run to the store, because I don't have any truck bed liner coating. So I'm going to have to go to the store and grab that, so I can finish this project up today. All right, so I got it lined up about where I want it. It's actually going to have 3 mounting points. It's going to be here, here, and then the one in the back right here that I left. So like I said earlier, this thing is only held in by 6 spot welds. I thought about stitch welding it, but then after further thought, that's kind of unnecessary. If it was good enough from the factory with just 6 spot welds, that's all I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to fill these back in, clean this up, and then hit it with the bed liner. So, alright guys, so I'm done welding. Welds came out pretty good. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. In case you're wondering why I didn't finish these holes here, I know it's kind of obvious. It's actually because this is stainless steel, and there's actually 2 pieces that I cut. And I really should have cut these in like an L shape, so I had less material and just combined the 2 because I had the 2 edges. But you know, live and learn. And because of that, it's actually really thick, and I was actually dulling a couple drill bits doing this. So I decided it really wasn't worth it, especially because these would be covered up by the battery anyway. So that's why I kind of left it like that. But like I said, I'm actually really happy with how this came out. Now it's time to get it painted. Alright guys, so I got... Alright guys, so this is what I'm going to be using. It's this Rust-Oleum truck bed coating. Not sure how great this stuff's really going to be. But again, this is not a part that's going to see a lot of abuse. I really just want to give it some protection while kind of covering up the bare metal here. So I went ahead and taped off the threads. Of course, with something like this, you always want to read the instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down with some soap and water, and then begin to spray it. Quite frankly, I probably could have went with like a rubberized coating too. It wouldn't have made much of a difference. But I also wanted to see how this truck bed stuff works. The spray-on truck bed stuff works, because I may need it for another project down the road. So in addition to just coating these parts, this is kind of an experiment to see how the stuff is really going to hold up. Also, one thing I didn't show you guys is I actually went ahead and welded these threaded rods in to the base, just because they had hooks on the bottom of them, and I thought they were just in the way, especially once they were installed. So I went ahead and just, you know, welded those in place. So now, in addition to just looking better, I don't have to worry about these rods falling through when you take this cap off. So just for ease of removing it later down the road, now these are fixed, and as a plus, I don't have to worry about, you know, having those extra little hook things hanging off the bottom of it. All right, so that's the first coat done. Go ahead and wait a couple minutes, hit it again. So of course you're not going to be able to see a whole lot because the stuff is black, and of course now my background is black. So I'm actually going to let this dry overnight, and I will be back tomorrow to let you guys see the finished result, and we're going to put it into the car. All right guys, so here's the finished product. All in all, I'm really happy with how it came out. If you look at the finish on it, it's like a satin, maybe low gloss black, because it is a truck bed liner, so it is textured. It has that rough feeling. I was just looking at it to see if it was going to chip when I tighten these wing nuts down, and it didn't. So that's a good thing. Doesn't seem to be nearly as tough as, you know, an actual spray-on bed liner. But for this project, I think it served its purpose because I won't be taking the battery out that much. I did use wing nuts just because they don't require any tools to take off, and you can see I do have some space. I have about 1/4 inch or so. So even if I move this piping back and forth, right, it doesn't hit. So I got enough clearance. But if you really wanted to play it safe, you can take the plastic cover off of this harness that's right here and tuck just the bundle of wires closer to the fender, and then move the whole battery tray over that way, because again, you still have quite a bit of space. There's at least, you know, 1.5 inches or so between the fuse box and the battery. But without doing all that and having to get into messing with a whole lot, this works. Of course, this is a 3-inch pipe, so that's really realistically as big as you're going to really use. So realistically, that's probably as big as you're going to use. It's got plenty of clearance. I can really see and work on everything down here, which is why I kind of had it loop around here, because it gives me easy access to everything, keeps it have a low profile, and then I really like, of course, the way the engine bay is looking. But anyway, guys, that's my video on my custom battery tray to kind of complete my full small battery kit. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and you have a great day.